Hello, Book of Face. It is Trudy here, coming to you live from her home studio lounge room. And I wanted to talk about the feminine embodiment of male entitlement and why this actually needs to happen. So I'll wait a moment for some people to catch up that I am live. And I'll have a sip of my tea. So Saturday afternoon may or may not have been the best time for this, but that's why we have replays. So, hi Mozzie. I've got a viewer, so I'm going to get started. Give some hearts and loves and likes if you can see it. So the other day, I put up a post where I said embrace was the feminine embodiment of male entitlement. And I didn't put any explanation, and I had a couple of messages sort of going, what? Okay, so I thought today I would explain it. Now, there are a few different angles that I want to talk about, and I also want to talk about why I have a male coach, even though I am actually a feminist. And it ties into male entitlement and feminine embodiment, right? So let me take you on a little journey to explain my thought process. And please feel free, hi Todd, please feel free to post comments in the chat as we go, because I want this to be a discussion. So growing up, let's cast our mind back, because to me, this is where unconscious male entitlement actually begins, through how we are raised as children. And there's a birthright of little boys. Now, let's put this in context. I'm 44, so I started school in the very late 70s, early 80s. So yes, modern day things are changing, but this is still present, right? So growing up, there was a birthright of little boys that little girls didn't have. And I want to talk about some key values and things that form out of this and how it's showing up. So, little boys are taught to stand out. They're taught to go for the mark in football. They're loud and they go out and play and they roughhouse. And so they get a level of attention, right? And let's look at this in nature. The male in nature is quite often the pretty version. Like, what came to mind for me when I was thinking about this is the satin bowerbird. The male has those beautiful blue feathers, where the female is this drab brown bird, right? So growing up from the space of attention, little girls are consciously and unconsciously programmed that attention for us is bad. But how it's now showing up for a lot of women in business is the negative side of getting attention. We're coming at it from a very, very masculine space. And I see this with quite a few women coaches out there. It's the hustle, it's the grind, it's the demand. It's women sitting in this really highly masculine state, and they're wearing themselves out. They've lost the flow. And so little boys turn into men that it's quite natural for them to stand out. It's quite natural for them to just expect to be the center of attention. Whereas for women, we've got to unravel the layers. Now, from a values perspective, attention is considered a shadow value, and the flip side of that is appreciation. So for women, when we get appreciation, we feel okay about the attention, right? But for a lot of women showing up, there is this negative energy around really embodying feminine attention. And little boys growing up, there's a natural assumption, and it shows up in the corporate workplace, that men will be the leaders. Now, with the exception of maybe netball, the boys were generally the captains, the leaders. The boys were the ones that were naturally assumed to be in charge. And so for women now, pulling aside that mantle, control, and even owning our superior knowledge, there's a lot of stretch in that. And once again, it doesn't feel like a natural part of our birthright. And even a year ago, attention and control and superiority for me, which are shadow values, and I work with these in Embrace, there was a tension and a push around being able to own it and not feel that it had to be almost aggressively forced to be able to stand up as an equal to the men in some of the Facebook groups that I was in. Now, from an authority perspective, my whole life, men have been the one, boys, teenagers have been the ones that take charge. And when a woman steps up in her authority and takes charge and wants to lead, and it is changing now, it is definitely changing now, there is still, for a lot of people that I see online, this really forced, aggressive energy that doesn't feel natural and creates a lot of tension. And, you know, having worked with both male and men and women as coaches and watching and observing a lot online, I'm still seeing, and I have experienced this aggressive force of women feeling they have to step into their masculine, because what's happening is they're not embodying it from a feminine perspective. They're not going back and looking at what's happened growing up and their conditioning and the stories that they were told as little girls and the beliefs that have come out of that and the patterns that have formed through their whole life, and they haven't embodied what I call these shadow values from a feminine perspective. So they're still in the hustle, they're still in the grind, they're still in the push, they're still yelling and demanding attention and to be heard and be respected, instead of feeling that it's okay to embody it and own it and then express it in a way that is feminine and suits them. And even when it comes to things like sex, now women are taught the fluffy golden side of sexuality as a shadow value about love and connection. And it's the same with all of these things: attention, appreciation, control, freedom. We talk about all these beautiful values that are acceptable for women, but we haven't embodied that shadow side, that really powerful, strong side that men embody from the moment that they're born, and is their entitlement. Because to me, male entitlement is the embodiment of these things as natural. And for women, we are taught we are not allowed to embody these things. Even money for women, like having come from a corporate background, men always got paid more than me. And I know there's this whole thing, it's like blah, blah, it's a myth and stuff. But when I've worked in retail as an area manager and got offered a salary, maybe I didn't negotiate, and I'll own that. But there was an expectation, like I think for women, that everything would be fair. Whereas men were taught, little boys were taught to go in and ask for what they were due, right? And there was a discrepancy. I talked to a male area manager in a company that I worked for. He had one less store than me. He was way over budget on his wage spend. He wasn't making targets in every single store. My wages were under control. I was hitting my targets. Everything was good. And I was still being paid 10K less. Club, right? And so this is this validation thing, right? So this is a shadow value. Men don't look generally as externally as women do for validation. Men are very good at saying, I know this, I'm worth this, this is what I expect. And there's no doubt, there's no second guessing in that. Whereas women are conditioned, once again, from childhood, that we have to come from a place of like, oh, I'm so inspired, and what do you think of this? Is this okay? And we have to check in, and we don't have the male entitlement. We haven't embodied that whatever we decide for ourselves is okay. And we can still come from love, and we can come from self-respect, but all of that's okay. And the whole belonging thing, like, sorry guys, there's a boys club. There definitely is a boys club. and women are raised to be inclusive. Now that is shifting, and as a feminist, I'm very happy that all of that is shifting. And what I see moving forward is more women need to embody the male entitlement in a feminine way to really able to move forward and get ahead without the burnout, without the exhaustion, without the fear, the insecurity, and the doubt. Because when you embody male entitlement, you go after what you want. You know you fully own it. You don't have to check in. You are more than happy to step up and take charge of your own destiny. You can come from a place of love. It doesn't have to be this hard push, aggression to like, you don't have to fight for every single thing that you want. It becomes a lot more gentle. And this is why, I have to say it, this is why I'm actually now working with a male coach. Because that seeing that embodiment and working alongside that embodiment and being able to bring that embodiment into my own world in my own way with a coach that does understand the difference between masculine and feminine energy has been a huge game changer for me. Because instead of working with women that, as much as they talk about, you know, feminine energy and feminine flow and blah, 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 and seeing all of the women out there just pushing and pushing and pushing, I've been able to go, okay, how can I embody attention? How can I embody my rebellious streak? How can I embrace all of this and step into feminine energy and not feel like I have to live up to a masculine space and energy and version of myself, which I inherited from childhood, teenage years, going through school, my retail corporate career, and actually come from a space of fully owning all of who I am. And if it wasn't for doing this work, Embrace wouldn't have been born. Because in the spaces that I'd previously been, there was no space for purpose and mission. It was all like, we're looking at male entitlement and we're not embodying it as a feminine energy. We're going at it from a masculine space, and we're going to go at it hard, and we're not going to honor the intuition and the true purpose of the work that you're here to do. So this isn't a slag out of every single lady coach out in the world, but this is a call to action for the women who want to create more, who want to be more, who want to be fully embodied and own the male embodiment, the male entitlement, embody that in a feminine space, and step up even more empowered, more authentic, and more complete. Because the more I dive into this work, the more I see that there is a gap, that if women bridge this gap and honor the male entitlement that they push away because as little girls they're told they're not allowed to have that, embody it, embrace it, obviously, because that's the name of the program, shameless plug, embrace it, but then allow a new level of authenticity to come through. This is the game changer for women in leadership, for women who want to create a bigger change in the world than they already are. I want to leave you to think about that, because yes, I want to talk about my program, obviously, because, you know, attention, you know, I have no shame, no fear, no guilt, no judgment about any of this. And that is part of embodying all of who you are. So ladies, have a think about, where do you hide from attention? Where do you repress your rebellious side? Because the rebellious energy is what's going to allow you to innovate and create every single thing that you want in your life, not just your business, in your life, because you don't want to be the same as everyone else, right? Belonging. You know, you'll stop staying in spaces because you think you have to be freaking polite. Where are you staying where you are not celebrated because you feel an obligation that you have to be polite and be there? There's no meaning for you in that. That just keeps you small. That contracts you. Where have you like hidden from taking control because you're worried about being called a control freak? You can call me a control freak if you want. Your names don't hurt me. I'm validated in myself to know that I am on my path. And I want this for all women, to be able to look inside and go, cool, I don't need to talk and check in with 50 other people to know that what I'm doing with my life is right. Money, you got money shit? Are you ashamed of wanting more because you grew up being told that, you know, women aren't allowed to earn more than their partners? Now, I know somebody who is earning more than her partner, and it's a freaking celebration. But I tell you what, in my 20s, when I was earning more than my partners, I felt shame about that. I felt ashamed for them. I felt ashamed for me. I felt that it was something wrong, and it caused so many issues in the relationship. There's nothing wrong with wanting money, and there's nothing wrong with earning what you're worth. But we are taught growing up that there is a hierarchy and this is where women sit. I could rant and rave more and more about this. But if you are curious about Embrace, reach out. If you want to live a more authentic life, please ponder how you can embody male entitlement and create and make it your own from a feminine perspective. Because that, my friend, is where true change actually happens. And the world needs more women to step up, fully embodied, their full, complete self, no more hiding from their power, to change the world. Here endeth the sermon. I'd love your thoughts about this. What do you look back and reflect on that you've learnt in your life that actually has potentially minimized you or held you back or caused issues that you're ready to let go of? Let's have a conversation on the post. I think it's really important, and whether someone else helps you, whether I help you, or whether you just go and do some stuff and help yourself, please consider the points in here. No more hustle and grind, no more push, no more force, no more having to come at everything like it's a fight. And for those of you that have been around in my world for a while, you've probably noticed I fight a lot less too. I used to have lots of fights with people on the internet, but I don't need to anymore because I've embodied all of this. I don't have anything to prove to anyone. I just show up and be me. And that's the best feeling ever. So think about it. I'm going to end the live. I'd love to know your thoughts. Post in the comments. If you know anyone who you think is hiding from their true power and hiding from themselves, tag them in the post, share the live, spread the love. I've got to go and film some content videos for In Bed with Abundance. So I look forward to hearing your comments. Love you all. Happy weekend. Bye.